Field Report Number FA 7392, Cycle 48. Subject Species Homo sapiens. Observed a synchronized, twice-daily migration event designated Commute. Individuals exit habitation units at fixed intervals, enter metal transport shells, and form dense, slow-moving clusters along paved pathways. Physiological indicators include elevated heart rate, facial tension, and repetitive vocal emissions directed at other units. No immediate resource acquisition is visible, yet behavior persists with high regularity. Subjects appear aware of inefficiency, but continue participation. Hypothesis: ritualized obligation linked to abstract social structures rather than direct survival. Confusion remains as to why distress is tolerated when alternatives are technologically feasible. Humans engage in a synchronized daily migration between their sleeping structures and labor sites, despite possessing the technological capacity to remain stationary. Observation indicates that at approximately the same local time, each planetary rotation, large populations exit their personal dwellings and enter transport vessels, forming dense streams that move along predetermined paths. This occurs even though many of these labor tasks are mediated through digital interfaces that could, by all measurable standards, be accessed from within the dwelling itself. Central Command has repeatedly questioned why a species would construct systems that enable remote activity and then collectively ignore them. The movement appears ritualistic rather than functionally necessary, with individuals displaying signs of urgency and mild distress if they deviate from the schedule. Unlike our own species, which optimizes for minimal energy expenditure by eliminating unnecessary transit, humans appear to derive a sense of legitimacy or validation from physically relocating their bodies. The Council has tentatively classified this as a symbolic migration, possibly tied to social signaling or inherited behavioral patterns from pre-technological eras when physical presence was required for survival tasks. Humans voluntarily confine themselves in dense vehicular clusters, enduring prolonged immobility while exhibiting heightened stress responses. During the migration period, individuals enter small enclosed transport units and align themselves in elongated sequences, often remaining nearly motionless for extended durations. Despite the lack of forward progress, subjects exhibit physiological indicators of agitation, including vocal outbursts, repetitive tapping, and aggressive signaling toward nearby units. This is particularly perplexing to the Council, as the chosen method of transit appears to generate the very delay it seeks to overcome. Alternative transport systems with higher efficiency exist within their technological grasp, yet many humans persist in selecting the least efficient option. The vehicles themselves are equipped with environmental controls and entertainment systems, yet these do not appear to mitigate the psychological discomfort. In contrast, our species employs distributed teleportation nodes to eliminate congestion entirely, rendering the human preference for collective stagnation both inefficient and, from a rational standpoint, self-imposed suffering. Central Command has flagged this as a potential example of cultural inertia overriding logical optimization. Humans exhibit strict temporal synchronization in their commuting behavior, resulting in predictable surges of collective movement at specific intervals. Data shows that vast populations initiate transit within narrow time windows, creating intense peaks of activity followed by relative inactivity. This pattern suggests adherence to externally imposed schedules rather than individualized optimization. The Council finds it notable that even minor deviations from these temporal norms can produce significant social or economic consequences for the individual, reinforcing conformity. From an efficiency standpoint, staggering these movements would reduce congestion and stress, yet the species maintains synchronized timing with remarkable consistency. Central Command hypothesizes that this behavior is enforced by institutional structures that prioritize uniformity over systemic efficiency. In our own civilization, temporal flexibility is a foundational principle, allowing each individual to operate according to optimal personal cycles. The human approach, by contrast, appears to prioritize collective rhythm at the expense of individual well-being, raising questions about the underlying values that govern their societal organization. Upon reaching their destinations, humans immediately begin anticipating the reverse migration, indicating a cyclical pattern driven by obligation rather than intrinsic motivation. Observational logs reveal that shortly after arrival at labor sites, individuals reference the upcoming return journey, often expressing fatigue or reluctance, despite having just completed the initial transit. This suggests that the commute is not an isolated event, but part of a continuous loop that frames their daily existence. The Council has noted that this anticipation often carries emotional weight, including dread or resignation, further supporting the hypothesis that the behavior is not inherently rewarding. Unlike our species, which structures activity cycles to minimize redundant transitions, humans appear to accept this repetitive displacement as a fixed component of life. Central Command remains uncertain whether this acceptance is due to lack of alternatives, social conditioning, or an underdeveloped optimization instinct. The persistence of this pattern, despite widespread acknowledgement of its inefficiencies, indicates a deeply embedded behavioral norm that may resist change even in the presence of superior solutions.